Good morning, everybody. This is T. Falcon Napier. Welcome to Building a Career That Matters. Today, again, this is about not getting paid what you're worth. It's supposed to answer the key question, how should I actually price my services? Here's the truth I want you to all go into this call with, that every one of these disciplines, whether it's speaker, trainer, coach, or consultant, has opportunities at every level of compensation available to us all of the time, regardless of what's going on with the economy, regardless of what might be going on with the time of the year, whatever happens to be trendy, whether you are a speaker, trainer, coach, or consultant, every one of those opportunities has got things for us to do at every price point you can imagine. And so today, there are coaches that are out there making $1,000 an hour for their energy, while other coaches are making 50 bucks and sometimes less. If you're a trainer, there are trainers that are standing in front of audiences right now for less than $1,000 and trainers that are standing in front of an audience for $10,000 or more. And so this belief that there is some fixed price that each one of us will charge based on this role that we've chosen simply isn't true. We get to set our prices anywhere we want as long as we are willing to pursue that segment of the prospect pool who is ready, willing, and able to provide us with that level of compensation for the work that they're hiring us to do. The biggest barrier in commanding higher fees is you. It's not the marketplace. It's not the economy. It's not, again, whatever's happening in the world of trends and training or this coaching methodology or that one. No, the biggest barrier in commanding higher fees is you. And so on today's program, we're going to look at a lot of different things that you could be doing to boost your fees and we're also going to be talking about some of the barriers that interfere with you actually achieving all that you could on this line. Now, we've been studying this phenomenon for a very long time, and so today I wanted to show you a little bit of the feedback from our 2007 Basic Business Viability Assessment for human development professionals, speakers, trainers, coaches, and consultants. This particular problem area was labeled on that study as not getting paid what you're worth. So hopefully you can all see this on screen right now. Stephen, let me know that this is actually the GoToWebinar is actually cooperating.
It is right now, yes.
Yay. So now what we did for this study was we basically broke down the data by the discipline. So there's data for coaches, consultants, speakers, trainers, and you can look at this to your heart's content, whatever you might like. Today, I just want to bring to your attention what's happening at the bottom. All participants, this was 200 people. We asked them to tell us the degree to which they felt this was a problem in their business. And interestingly enough, they told us that it was definitely a problem. Look at that, 8.9 is where it's on here as far as the importance of its concern. And so they also told us about their ability and the challenge. So we have lots of really good data that basically points to a very big problem. So let me go ahead and show you the change grid that resulted from this research. And then I think that'll help you understand what's going on. Now, as a quick reminder or as new information for those of you who haven't tapped into your free training in the basics of tension management, humans experience 5 levels of productive tension, ranging from the highest, called stress, all the way down to the lowest, called apathy. So we have stress, power, power, apathy, and apathy. Now, there are many other layers of the change grid that give us a lot of other information, but we're very curious to know how much productive tension does this population have around getting rid of this roadblock? And so here's what we actually learned. This is how everyone plotted. What you're looking at is a change grid. The change grid has 2 main axes, your perceived level of ability to perform this task and the perceived level of challenge you feel you face in performing that task. So we actually ask you, when it comes to getting rid of this roadblock, so dealing with this problem of not getting paid what you're worth, how do you rate your ability to successfully do that? And here we have it rating from a low of 0 all the way up to a high of 12. We also ask you to rate how challenging or difficult you think it is to get rid of this roadblock or overcome this problem of not getting paid what you're worth. And that can also range from a low of 0 to a high of 12. So now, on this diagram you're looking at, the change grid, you see a lot of circles scattered hither and yon. Each one of those circles represents one or more people in the population who indicated their perceptions as being at that location. So, for example, if you look down here at the bottom of the diagram where you see the number 4, This means that 4 people out of the 200 rated their ability to get over this roadblock as an 11 and the challenge as only being a 1. And 9 people said their ability was a 10 and the challenge was only a 2. So we've got a pretty high concentration of people who actually think they're doing a decent job of it, but we believe they're mistaken. The ideal location for this activity to be performed most naturally and to the best advantage of everyone involved is at coordinates 10, 10. It's when people believe they have a very high level of ability, 10, not 11 or 12, that's more than enough. Just a 10 for ability is great. And then we say, how challenging should they think it is? Well, we believe that people should also consider the challenge to be a 10 as well. We don't want people to underestimate the challenge of capturing all of the monies that you could be capturing. So, or how about realizing all the value that you actually are providing to others. So it's not easy. And the people who are rating themselves down here saying like, oh no, I'm so far downgrade, I'm in apathy about it. 35 people are in apathy about it. That's 15% of the population. So 43 are in power apathy. So 78, and I'm almost up to 40% of the population are down in power apathy or apathy when it comes to dealing with this issue. They think it's totally taken care of. But when you start to now ask them the follow-up questions, are you making as much money as you want, as much money as you need, as much money as you think you deserve? They say no. And so this is a very interesting phenomenon. We've got a lot of people who say, oh, no, they've got the ability to do it, and it's not really all that challenging, yet they don't have the results to show for it. So now, this again is a different population. This goes back to 2007 than the people that are participating in the study today. But I'm very curious to throw to you guys as kind of our little first interactive question. How many of you believe that right now you are, in fact, getting every single penny from a client that you want, need, and deserve? I'm not saying every possible penny that they could have available to you, but how many of you can actually honestly say you are capturing every single penny that you want, need, and deserve from your clients? So if you say yes to that, you're the rarest of the rare person that we've ever had on any of our calls. So there's a gap. There's a gap, and this is what we need to do is like challenge some of these beliefs and help you to raise that standard so you're not settling for whatever it is you're currently thinking you should be getting. And I'll get to that in the barriers around beliefs as well. So we've got a lot of work to be done here to move this population to where we want. In fact, 189 out of those 200 people are actually plotting in an area of the change grid that says there is work to be done. If I move this to other layers, but I don't want to, confuse people that aren't fluent in the change grid, I can tell you the majority of people where they're plotting right now on the change grid show that they have an awareness that there is work to be done. And there are a lot of people who are showing that they have a formulated intention to do something about it. But the people who are actually engaged in executing on resolution of this problem area are quite a small percentage of this population. To look at the developmental objectives, we need to increase the ability rating for 157 people. We need to boost the challenge rating for 177, and for 199 out of 200, they are plotting in a way that shows they're actually holding back. So we actually want their courage to increase. Now, they don't need, I'm not saying that everyone's mousy, although a great many of them are. But I'm saying that everybody just needs to have a little drop more courage if they really want to be able to get the most out of this. So our developmental objectives are to do something to boost your ability. Make sure you see the challenge is significantly high, that it merits your attention, and hopefully give you guys a little bit more courage to go out there and do what needs to be done. So hopefully you would find achieving those three outcomes a pretty good use of an hour of your time today. So with that, let's get into some of these fee-limiting beliefs. And these are in no particular order. These are ones that have just seemed to come up very often as we're having our discussions with our professional team members who continue to hesitate to go and get the money they want. We've always said this, all of you are already millionaires. You just have to go get your money. So let's just figure out what stands between where you are right now and going and getting that money. It's there waiting for every single person who's on this call. So here's the first fee limiting belief to examine. My clients can't afford more than I'm charging. Okay, if that is your belief, let's see how you guys would challenge it. So let's say that you're sitting down with one of your colleagues and you're not so much in a coaching situation. You can be as blunt as you want to be. What would you say to someone who says, my clients can't afford more than I'm charging? Tell me, what would your recommendation be? Be curious to hear what some of you guys would say. I'm just saying, like my clients can't afford more than I'm. So Patrick is saying you need to chase a different client. This is exactly right. It's kind of like if your clients can't afford more than you're charging, and your needs are not being met, your wants, your desires, your feeling of being fulfilled on the value side, well, then maybe you need to be going after a different population, the population you're going after. So now it's also partially true or probably true that the clients say they can't afford more, but they probably could. And you're accepting their pushback and don't want to upset them. There's all kinds of reasons that they get in the way. In fact, next week when we start talking about applying these principles of tension management to selling and marketing yourself more effectively, we say that one of a sales professional's biggest problem, and make no mistake about it, everyone, you are sales professionals. So your clients aren't just being handed over to you. You got to go and get get these clients. So part of your job, and maybe the most important part of your job, is being able to find and secure clients for yourselves. Obviously, it doesn't matter how good of a coach or a consultant or a trainer you are if you don't have anyone to coach, consult, or train for. So we got to get these. So one of the big problems we'll talk about on in Master Stream Essentials is that most sales professionals would rather be liked than be valued. And so, anytime they find themselves in a situation where they have to make their client uncomfortable, or they say or do something and it makes their client uncomfortable, they immediately pull back. They immediately want to help this person be more comfortable. They don't realize that that discomfort is nature's way of stimulating your tension. So it's nature's way of saying, hey, something's going on that needs your attention. So give this the attention it needs for, and then resolve whatever it is that's in your way. I'd say I'm getting lots of comments here. So how do you know that? Yeah, exactly. It's a great question. Denise says, well, we'll just ask the person, how do you know that your clients can't afford more than you're charging? A wonderful question from NLP. Getting introduced to that person is the big challenge. Yep, yep, yep. How do you know they can't afford higher fees? That's from Diane as well. So you guys are absolutely on board. We want to go, where is this belief coming from? Now, if you guys could ask that question of others, are you asking this question of yourself? Do you ever find yourself thinking or saying, my clients or that client can't afford more than I'm charging? So if it's a once in a blue moon thing, and part of the reason why you're working with them is because you're paying it forward or doing a little bit of returning to the universe, what the universe is bringing to you, I'm okay with all that. But if you've got this strong pattern of saying, nope, my clients just can't afford to pay more, or in this area of the country, or in this particular place, no, they can't pay more, they can't pay more. You can't get over how often I hear people say that. The next one. Well, my contact person doesn't have the authority to spend more on my services. Okay. If this is what you're saying, how would we challenge this one? I'll make things easy for all of you. We'd say, then maybe you're talking to the wrong contact person, or maybe you need to help them recognize that they may not have the authority to spend more, but do they have the authority to influence those who will release the funds to, look more carefully at what you're doing, expand what you're doing, etc. So if we're going to have our future limited by our contact people, then we have to settle for what they're willing to do on our behalf. And I promise you, you are not top on their priority list when it comes to making sure people have the livelihoods they're looking for. So don't believe that. If you're relinquishing your control to those contact people, then we have a fundamental issue that we're going to need to help you conquer. Right. Lori's saying there, well, if you don't have the authority to spend more on my services, then who does? Exactly. Exactly. Someone sooner or later in an organization is going to sign the check. So who is that person? Um, Another fee limiting belief. And again, as we go through these things, I want you guys to step into the confessional and just ask yourself, is this a belief that you currently hold? Are you held in the past and were able to overcome? Is this something you see in your colleagues, et cetera? I mean, this is one of the reasons why we hope you guys spread the word about the ChangeWorks community. We believe that a huge percentage, in fact, you saw our data, 199 out of 200 human development professionals in that study are holding back when it comes to doing what's necessary to get paid what they're really worth. That might change if they listen to this call today. So here's the next one. If I raise my fees, I will lose all of my clients. Well, if someone's going to throw out there, I would first of all want to challenge the belief to go into this extreme. Really, if you raise your fees, you're going to lose all of them. I mean, I get it. You may raise your fees, and that may mean that some of your clients are no longer able to support their work, their continuing work with you. Well, we get that. To me, it's no different than owning an apartment complex. We're going to set the rent high enough that we get our place X% filled, 90% filled or whatever. But once we go beyond that point, we go like, now it's time to raise the rent, knowing fully well that some people will drop out, but it opens up inventory that we can end up filling with someone who's willing to bring us a bit more money. And so, why can't we do that same thing? If we raise our fees, what we end up doing is retaining our best clients, or advancing our relationships with our best clients. And what we lose are those clients who are no longer able to pay for it, or don't see the value in finding the resources to pay for it. And what we're really doing is liberating space. And so, yeah, you need to time when you raise your fees so that you're not, hurting yourself. But you really should be doing this. Len sharing that lawyers raise fees every year. And interestingly enough, there are many, many uh, professions that raise the fees across the board, and others that will say, well, once you get involved, we will protect that fee forever. Like, for example, this is it might be a strange thing about us, but it's the way that it is, and we accept that. But I made an agreement when I started my business 32 years ago that whatever fee I started with a particular client, I would honor that fee for the rest of my life. And way back then, to get we're talking about in the early 1980s. To get $500 a day or $1,000 a day was pretty remarkable money. But back in those days, I was doing work, and one of my very first clients was Disney. To this day, if Disney called and asked me to do something, I would do it at the fee that I charged them for originally. And the reason for it is certainly philosophical. They believed in me from the very beginning, when everyone else was wondering, how can this 20 some odd year old guy present himself as someone who knows something that we would benefit from learning? And they believed in me. They saw my value. They gave me the opportunity I needed then in order to have the opportunity that I've enjoyed in all the subsequent years be possible. And so we're okay with that. And it seems kind of strange or silly, but that's what we do. So let's see, Lori sharing. I love that promise and do that with many of my clients. And if since I first heard you share this promise, it feels good for them and for me. And this is really what it's all about. The other thing that it does is that it helps protect them to be able to use them as a referral. Because now I can say to them, you guys are getting this special fee, but you have to understand that that's not the fee I charge brand new clients. And so when you're talking to someone I'm asking you to chat with on my behalf, it's really not about dollar figures as much as it's about value that you're receiving from the relationship. But if it does come up, you can say to them, he has this policy that says he honors original pricing forever. And that's how it's always been. That's how it'll always be. Even people who have joined the ChangeWorks community, some people joined us 10 years ago. Well, we've raised the monthly licensing fees and that as we've progressed, but we never raised the fees for the people who were originally involved. So it's just the way that it is. So, all right. So, but, we want them to challenge this belief that they'll lose all of the clients. There will be some attrition, but maybe that's a good thing. The next one, there's a limit to how much I can realistically earn. Well, as long as you hold that belief, you are right. So, um, but the truth is that, if you guys are peddling your services on purely on like an hourly fee basis or a daily fee basis, well, there is kind of a physical limit to the number of hours you could provide and the number of days of services you might be able to provide before you just find yourself physically, emotionally, and intellectually taxed. So there is a limit if you're going to lock yourself into this trading time for dollars kind of model. But if you change the model and start selling based on the value that you're bringing someone, regardless of how much time it takes, you're going to make X amount of money or whatever, then you can actually make more. But you can also make more by looking at all the things that you could be charging for and making sure you charge for them. And in just a second, I'm going to show you my actual booking guidelines, and maybe you'll find that useful to you. So one of you was asking, you say, suppose the same people aren't at Disney, would your policy still make sense? Absolutely, because even though those people may no longer be there, the legacy remains. And I still have all of the people I worked with there. I have all their contact information. I can share with them all the stories, all that sort of a thing. So yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to do it, because just think of the buzz that would create. It's like, look at this guy and look where he's at now. Look where he started. So I just think it's kind of good to do it all the way around. Now, that being said, for all of you, I want you to know that I don't actively pursue more business with the low ticket item clients. And so while I would honor that price, I don't call up Disney, I don't call up American Express, I don't call up National Bank of Detroit, I don't call up these companies that I worked with in the early years and say, hey, you need help this year? I'm not trying to encourage that. I've got plenty of clients and plenty of business opportunities that are above those fees. But if it happened, I would honor it, and I'll never change that. Never change that. Okay, so all right, so let's look at a couple other ones. Next one, it's more important to work with people who need me and appreciate me, even if they can't pay me as much. Well, that's very noble. And if you're a person of independent means who really don't have to concern yourself with where your bills are going to get paid from this month, okay, more power to you. Please go out there and provide services to anyone and everyone that you think would really benefit from it and value what you're doing. That's really great. But if the world that you live in says, no, 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 I need to make money, then I would ask you to add this to it. It's most important to work with people who need me, appreciate me, and are in the position to pay me. And once you've got enough of those that your needs are being met, now you can go into the altruistic side of things and look at this and go like, maybe I do want to have a client or two that I do work with for a reduced rate, or even for free, just because I feel like I'm getting compensated in different ways. I'm, giving of myself, and that's always good as far as the whole way that appreciation and gratitude, all that works. Yep. Um, Lori's asking, do I put that rate in writing, or is it just a promise you offer? Oh, no, no, no. It's in writing. It's no hesitation about it. When I strike up a deal with a client, I say to them, this is the price that we have agreed to, and this is the price that I will honor forever. And so that's the way that it is. Yep. Yeah. Lynn's saying give to charity is exactly right. So if you want to do this, go ahead and do this. But please don't do this at the point that it's, self-sacrifice is not logical. So if you really want to be of service to people, then you need to be as successful as you can be. I promise you, very successful people do a lot more for charity than people who are on the edge of needing the charity. So put yourself in that successful place and you'll be able to help everybody a lot better. Next one. I'm not sure what my services are actually worth on the open market. Well, interestingly enough, if you went to, let's say you're a trainer, you could go to the ASTD annual reports or annual research reports they put out that shows what are people actually making? What are people actually charging? What does this whole industry look like? I promise you, every one of our industries, whether it's coaching, training, consulting, there's just oodles and oodles of associations out there. And one of the things they're always researching is what is the financial landscape look like? What are the possibilities? So what percentage of our members are playing at this level of the game versus at this level of the game? And so there's lots of research out there that you can do. But here's what I learned long ago. It's not important to me what my services are being sold for by competitor A or competitor Z. What's important is that I'm pricing my services where I want them to be. And so as I said from the very beginning, there are opportunities available in all of our disciplines at every single financial level you can think of. So I just want to choose which population I want to work for and who I want to, and that's who I actually want to go for. And the only thing I'm concerned about is the amount of money I'm charging something that resonates with them. In fact, next week we get into MasterStream Essentials. I'll say that if you want to qualify a prospect, you want to ask them some questions right up front to make sure they're even worth pursuing. And well, I'll rattle off some of the questions now. We want to go, does your company routinely use the services of somebody like me? The second thing I want to know is, would a fee of X fit into your customary budget? So if they don't say they use people like me, I don't know why I'm talking to them. It's much easier to talk people who already understand your value into using your services than trying to teach people who have no sense or experience with the value of the services you provide and try to convince them to try it. I mean, so I'd much rather go in there and work with the natural marketplace. But uh, that's all I want to know. I want to know, do you use people like me for the kinds of services that I provide? And then the second thing I want to know is, does my fee fit into your schedule? I don't want to ask you what's in your budget. That's not what it's all about. I'm sorting before I sell. I want to qualify you. So if you are not in the position to pay me what it is that I'm going to be telling you you've got to pay, then the sooner I know that, the better. So why don't we just qualify them around this? So I think you really get to pick. Let's see. Eugene's saying, don't you think they exaggerate because they're selling coaching certifications, for example? There's always survivor bias in the surveys. Yeah, Eugenie, I think you are right. What they are really telling us is about the of the people who have actually achieved some success. What are they doing? And that's really great, but they rarely bring up the fact that X% of their members never renewed, and they do kind of some back research and find out that X percentage of those people who never renewed are no longer in private practice. And so that's going to be true no matter what industry we look at. So we really are looking at those kinds of reports to determine what it is that the people that are marginally successful all the way up to stellarly successful are actually doing. And the ones who, don't have two dimes to rub together, generally they're not reflected because they left, they're gone, or they're too embarrassed to even contribute. Okay, let's see the next one. My hourly or daily rate should cover all the pre and post work that I do. This one happens all the time as well. There are coaches, trainers, consultants, etc., who genuinely believe that the only thing they can charge for is that hour during which they are actually speaking to this client, or the trainers believe the only thing they can charge for are the actual hours that are passing while they stand in front of that audience. This is absolutely wrong. There's always pre-work that needs to be done. There is post-work that needs to be done. There's administrative work that has to happen around it. There's your thought time going into it. All that counts. And even if you were to choose not to charge for it, you should still put it front and center as part of the services that you're providing. So they see you get more beyond this hour. You get this value. Now, the whole spirit of today's call is you could and should charge for whatever that prep time or that post work happens to be. And how many more? Can you imagine if you said to me that for every hour you sit with an executive client, you have probably spent another hour preparing to be there. And that, before and after, pre and post. Now, that would double your income if you could charge for that. And while coaches may be a bit less likely to do it because many of the coaches we know say, well, no, I show up and then we deal with whatever's in the moment. I don't need to be giving any thought pre or post. But as you start to go up, these different roles, the need to do that kind of work gets higher and higher. So a trainer can't just show up and deliver a training engagement. There should be customization work and all kinds of things that go along with it, and all that could and should be charged for. Okay, next thing, let's see. Three last ones. I have to accept whatever the client offers me. Why are things really that pathetic? I mean, where does it written that you've got to accept whatever the client offers you? You learn to negotiate, push back a little bit. You have to believe that the client has probably received some training on how to get the best possible deal for their organization, or just as a consumer, they're always trying to tell the vendor that they only have X. But it's amazing how often we find out, oh no, 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 they want to keep in that general vicinity, but there's more money, there's more flexibility. So no, you don't have to accept what the client offers you. In fact, brace yourselves, you can actually say no altogether. So you don't have to accept the job, let alone the job at the fee that they're talking about. Be willing to walk away from things that don't meet your minimum qualifications for you to feel good about that relationship on the financial side of things. So let's see. Yep. Sounds like I need to start charging separately for pre and post work. And again, Lori, even if you may choose not to charge for it, we still want to make sure that it's itemized on whatever that worksheet was. So they recognize that you're doing a lot more than what this 1 hour seems to represent, or this one day seems to represent. Um, Lori's also sharing, I've had biz coaches tell me that in order to get cash flow, I should accept whatever I can get for now. That feels real crappy, for lack of a better word. No, it's absolutely right. And we are very big believers in fee integrity. And that is that whatever prices you set for yourself, you have to live with. And you have to expect them from everyone else. And this is where I get up on my soapbox about people who are lacking in fee integrity. So here goes. Um, I want you to think about um, what happens in a retail sales environment when we put pressure on the salesperson for a better deal. So when we put pressure on that salesperson for a better deal, we start haggling with them. We start arguing. We start to do hardcore negotiation sorts of things. We are pushing and pushing and pushing for that person to either sweeten the deal by throwing in more stuff for free or give us those services for a lower price. Now, at the same time, if that seller, that vendor, was talking to someone who saw their value, appreciated what they were doing, honored everything that they had done to get to where they are, to be able to provide those services, that vendor would charge the top price for that person. So, why is it that we reward the people who treat us unkindly? Why do we reward the people who argue with us, who want to push back on everything? Why do we honor? Why do we reward them for becoming aggressive with us when we thought we were supposed to be allies? And simultaneously with rewarding that bad behavior, we are actually punishing the people who saw our value and were willing to give us what they felt we were worth. So I think that there is a fundamental philosophical problem in a negotiable environment, and it always seems to go to the favor of the people who have behaved less pleasantly. So you guys can soak on that however you want, but I really believe well, this gets to the second point. It's okay to offer different clients different rates as long as I get their business. Absolutely not, but for the reasons I just pointed out there. So we can explore that in more detail. But I've got some of the things. Let's see. I've had some potential clients get upset when I offer to discount. They refuse due to their own integrity and desire to pay what I'm worth. That's fantastic. If you could find a whole army of those clients, I think that's really the people you want to work for. The people who say these services that all of us are providing have great value, and you deserve to be treated in a particular way. Particularly, we're talking about trainers. It's not just the fee you're getting; it's also how they treat you on the road. And one of the things that companies start to do when they want to tighten the belt is they start arguing with the outside vendors about pricing. They start to cut back on all the different niceties that you might be able to enjoy on the road. So to this, they're trying to pay you as little as possible, and they're trying to make you only marginally comfortable so that they're saving as much money as they can. And as long as everyone's willing to accept that, they win. But at the same time, you've got clients, or I've got clients who go like, "Oh no, no, no! Let me." And they fly me first class. They'll send a limousine for me. They put me up in a 4 or 5 star hotel. They don't quibble about the basic travel necessities. So this is it. You got to make sure that you're practicing some sort of fee and expense integrity, or you really are rewarding the wrong people. And what on earth are you saying about yourself? So we got to do that. Okay, last point here. I don't have the credentials to command higher fees. This is what I said at the beginning. Then you need to be on next week's call because there are a lot of credentials that are far, far, far more persuasive than any academic degree and any association designation is ever going to make you. How many of you are currently providing a service for your clients that has got little or nothing to do with your academic background? And how many of you are working with clients right now who have never even asked you what your association credentials are? And even if they did, they wouldn't put those as high on the hierarchy of deciding factors based on the sheer amount of experience you have alone. And so this is what we want you guys to really look at. It's like you don't have to have the academic credentials for a lot of the things that human development professionals may do. I mean, some require licenses, others don't. These association designations are great things to have, particularly if you find value in that ongoing education and in really refining what your industry is really all about. That's all fine and dandy. But the belief that having those two credentials is going to open up every single door, no, 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 no. I don't mind saying to you that one of the statistics that we monitor about success rates among human development professionals shows this. The more their experience leans towards the academic, the less likely they are to survive in an independent business setting, where there's people who have a very strong business background who have understood about needing to sell themselves and compete and all that, even though they do not have whatever those academic or association credentials may be, they seem to build better businesses and they seem to overcome the struggles a bit more easily. So I'm saying to you that not only could those credentials not help you, they could actually hurt you. And so this is why we want you to really focus on all the other kinds of credentials. Things like what does your client list look like? What do the testimonials look like? What are your references? What is your track record? What are your publications? This is the kind of stuff that's really going to make a difference to the clients as you work your way up there. So maybe I mean, yeah, anyway, enough said on that. We'll talk about these credential issues on next week's call instead. So this is a limiting belief for sure. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about some of the things that are barriers to earning more. So we got to get rid of those limiting beliefs, but here's some other actual barriers, more in your behavior than anything else. So the first one, targeting too low in the prospects organization. Obviously, if you are working only with individuals, then there you are. But if you are working in more of an organizational setting, you got to believe there are multiple layers of authority. And if you are targeting too low in the organization, you may only get scraps. You may get no opportunity whatsoever. You may not even be given the opportunity to compete. On the other hand, if you target too high in the prospects organization, you could be making a grave mistake from a tension management perspective. So, for example, if you are someone who is offering sales training services and you drank the Kool-Aid that says you got to be talking with people up in the C-suite, you got to talk to the CEO may have all the authority, but the CEO does not have the pain that the person who is in charge of sales does. So, I would rather talk to a vice president of sales, the director of sales, the whoever that sales leader is, uh, rather than try to call higher in the organization. If I need to get approvals above that individual, and generally I don't, if I'm talking to a vice president level or whatever, I've got enough authority in that individual to get things going. But even if I do, now I've got that person who's also my ambassador. I'm not the one who's trying to talk to the CEO. We're both trying to go and talk to whoever needs to be spoken to. So I think people make a big mistake targeting too high in the prospects organization. So what we say as our rule is you want to target who has the highest amount of tension and the authority to move forward. So they got to meet both those requirements. They have to have tension around this issue and they have to be in the position to advance the deal. So that's what we're looking for. Let's see. That's right. Barney is sharing here, going back to this credential question, that valued clients don't ask me the questions. They just want the results. And as long as I'm providing the results, now I'm paraphrasing or I'm continuing on, as long as we provide the results that our clients are looking for, we have the best credential anyone could ever want to have. ever want to have. Okay, next thing, barriers to earning more, focusing on the rate instead of on the value that you're actually bringing to that person, particularly for consultants. Usually, when you are in a consulting kind of an environment, you're working on something that offers geometric returns. So you fix whatever issue A happens to be, and they are going to get a wave of revenue coming to them because of what you've done. If that's the situation, you could certainly work your deal so that you're getting a certain percentage of whatever the improvement happens to be. Or if you're helping them to save money, you get a certain percentage of the overall dollars that you were able to save for them. And so there's ways that you can do this by focusing on the value instead of on the rate. Those of you that are providing coaching services, people are used to thinking in terms of an hourly rate. But what that hourly rate may be is very much tied on the value that you can establish around what they're going to get. If you're a trainer, you can kind of do a hybrid of that. A couple more barriers to earning more: inappropriate pricing strategy and an inappropriate discount strategy. And for this, what I want to do is show you a couple of documents that we use, and then hopefully you'll get the point from that. In fact, let me go ahead and I'm just going to jump past this screen for a second and show you my booking guidelines here. This document is available on the blog, and so if you really wanted to see this in detail, you certainly can. Wait a second, my scroller is just not working very well. So here's some guidelines. First of all, fee information. So there's lots of factors involved. Notice here I say that a 2-day minimum fee is charged for all South American and European events, and a 3-day minimum for all events in Asia and Australia. And so here I have a price that I've set for each one of my program durations from keynote all the way up to 5-day. I have my standard booking fees for each one of these. I also have what I call first five. First five bookings work like this, and I have the explanation for you right here. First five rates are available exclusively to existing clients and are limited to the first 5 dates booked in any given month. And so I say to all my existing clients, if you want to do a little planning ahead, I sell the first 5 days, full days of my for $5,000 a day. That can get them, since we're doing training programs, that can get them half off. Short range bookings are available to anyone booking an engagement less than 6 weeks prior to the engagement date. My thought has always been, just like the airlines, let me put my seats on sale off in the distance, and let me put my seats on sale for any seats I still have a remaining 6 weeks off out. In the world of being a trainer, if I've got a date on my calendar that's vacant in the next 6 weeks, I've got to do something deliberate to encourage people to move into those dates. It's short range for them to be making all the other kinds of plans they're going to need to make. And so I tend to give discounts for people that will use a date I have available in the next 6 weeks. We also have nonprofit bookings. Nonprofit bookings are available to bona fide domestic charitable organizations as well as domestic professional associations. So we'll give them a nice little discount for that. And then we also have what I lovingly refer to as backyard business. In backyard business, we're saying, like, if you can get out of your own bed and drive in your own car and do what you need to do and get home in time for dinner, this is backyard business. So we always want to give a discount to opportunities that are close at hand because we want to encourage them. That's a great way to go and make a nice chunk of change, develop your image in your own marketplace, and you don't have to go through all the additional hassle of schlepping to the airport, etc. So we don't give discounts. We only give discounts based on this chart. And so if you want a discount, well, then you either need to book me on short range or you need to be one of those first five who are going to do it in advance. And so you get the idea on how this all works. So I encourage all of you who are delivering services based on a daily rate or are doing training engagements or speaking engagements to look at this little chart and create something similar for yourselves. Now, let's see, I'm getting a couple comments here. Let me I look for who's high enough to know what's at stake and relates to that rate. It's exactly right, Len. What you're basically translating our thought about tension. They have to have tension about this issue, or they're not going to pay any attention to it. So, Eugenia, so you wouldn't advocate posting your rates on your website, would you? Absolutely. I have free transparency. And so all of my rates are always up and available on the website. Why would I hide that information? Sooner or later, it's going to come up. If the prices scare people away, okay. And if, if these are within their range, they know what we're talking about. I do my best to make sure that the discussion about money is the minor discussion that we're having. I want to put my emphasis on talking to a person about what are their needs, what are their interests, what is it that they're trying to really do, and what's that gap costing them. I want to talk about their issue. The fact that we're going to get money changing hands is a given, and so why don't I just put that up front, get it out of the way? I've found that this transparency has helped me very much through that. In fact, if you look through our website, there's even a page on our website that says, in the interest of transparency. And in that, we explain why we give away so much for free and how we actually make the money that we make. And so there's nothing to hide. I'm proud of what it, and frankly, I think I'm a bargain at any rate. So I'm not worried about that. Now, we only have 10 minutes or so left. So let me just show you what else is in this document. So if you guys would find this interesting, you're certainly welcome to download it and use it as a model. But we talk about what happens if there's a billing coordinator involved. See, billing coordinators for these large companies are going to tack on a fee. I want to make sure that my client understands that whatever that coordinator's fee is in addition to my fee. I'm not going to be the one paying that coordinator. They're going to have to do that. So I'm protecting my money. When it comes to expense information, I spell out exactly what it is that I want. And by the way, one of the ways that you get compensated if you travel is by making the best decisions you can about where you're staying, who you're flying on, whose cars you're renting, and then you can uh, build some loyalty around that. You can get the bonus points, the bonus miles, etc. All that has value to you. And so, for example, last year I flew over 100,000 miles for one client. And because that 100,000 miles, I've got 4 free round trip domestic tickets that I can use anywhere I want to go. That has value. And so it's one of the ways you're getting compensated. Another thing, just on the airfare issue for just a second. And again, if you guys want, I can get into more detail of this if you think you'd find this interesting. But I have a strict rule. I charge all of my clients round trip airfare from Charlotte, no matter what. I always charge them round trip from Charlotte. Now, the truth be told is I have no idea where I'm going to be actually traveling from to get to your engagement until a week or two before it happens, because there's other clients that are making their own requests. And I've got to figure out what the best, most efficient thing I can do as far as putting all of these flights in order to get everywhere I need to be. And so I can't then go back and say, oh no, because I reworked this, your airfare is going to be this. And so I go like, no, we have a general rule. All clients pay for an unrestricted coach or first class ticket. I'll show you why I make an exception for that in just a second. Round trip from Charlotte. And then whatever I need to rearrange, I rearrange. And if there's a net gain for me, then fine, there's a net gain for me. And there almost always is. If there's a net loss and I can't remember a time that ever happened, well, then fine, that's mine to be eating because I'm the one who said you got to give me round trip airfare from Charlotte. So the reason, by the way, I say unrestricted coach is because I am a chairman level flyer for the carrier I travel on. I get automatic upgrades to first class anyway for domestic, so I'm not going to make them pay for a first class ticket if the truth is that I'm going to get my first class upgrade anyway. Okay, anyway, so there's lots of things about expenses that you could be looking at, and you got to be very thoughtful about this because every single one of these are things that you would be paying for. So you want to let them compensate you accordingly. International booking fees. I charge travel days. I make sure that I'm in a full day in advance. There are limbo days, that there are days in between multiple engagements. I charge for a limbo day. Some people will charge up to 50% of their customary fee for travel days and for limbo days. I just charge $1,000 flat for those kinds of things. There's equipment, there's deposits, there's all kinds of stuff. Like taping, if you're going to allow people taping, if you're going to let them record what you've done, how are you getting compensated for that recording? And so if you guys would find this document useful to you, I'm more than happy to share it with you. But for now, again, we're getting almost to the end of our time. I want to show you another thing. Here's what I do when it comes to consulting fees. And so, yeah, these are pretty much right. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Oh, right, because it's got to be the one. So as a consultant, I sell my time. This is what you get: my time, all the knowledge, skill, etc. Here's the guidelines. I have a standard contract feature that offers a reducing rate as hours accumulate over the course of the entire relationship. So if I have a client who has only used me for between 2 and 49 hours, I charge them $500 an hour for that consulting. But the more they use me, the lower I charge them for the hourly rate. And so I do have some clients who have used me for more than 250 hours of my time, and I'm happy to do whatever I can for them for $250 an hour. So I don't give a discount. This is how you get a lower fee. You get a lower fee by using me, and then I'll do that. I'm also open to doing something like if people want to buy a book of dates in a particular month. I haven't shown you this up here, but I might say that rather than having it accumulate over the whole year, I can say this to you that this month, if you want to reserve an hour or 2 hours, usually I only do things with a 2 hour minimum, then it's going to be $500 an hour. But if this month you're going to use me for between 3 and 10 hours or 5 and 10 hours, I'll lower it to this rate. So whatever it is, you want to make sure that your fee is not something that is negotiated. The discount is something that people earn, and not just certain people, but anybody who meets those requirements can earn. So fee integrity does not mean that you have to have only one price and everyone's got to live with it. Fee integrity means you can have whatever discount structure you want, as long as that discount structure is, in my opinion, published and made available and applied to every single engagement you work with. We want to do our best to make sure that this is minimized. Many of you are asking for this document. What I'll do is I will put this document up on the Building a Career That Matters page, where you'll find the recording link sometime later on today or tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. So Patrick's saying, like, so you have a $5,000 retainer to start working with you. This is absolutely correct. If I'm going to do the other thing, okay, we'll get into this in more detail on a different call, but I do have this thing called Wildfire. A wildfire consulting hour is when you just need an hour of my time out of the blue. You don't have really ongoing use. You just need me for maybe an hour here, maybe an hour there. That's $1,000 an hour and requires no pre-commitment, nothing like that at all, no minimums. If you want to be tapping into this, then those first 10 hours are paid in advance. And and sometimes I've also suggested that people say that you can only get this reducing schedule if people are using you for more than X number of hours each and every month. So you get a little bit of that retained relationship happening as well. If you guys would like to talk about retainers and that in greater detail, I'm happy to do that for you guys too. Okay, anyway, so these are how I think you should handle consulting fees. Again, what I'm trying to do is relieve all of you of the horrible job of having to argue with people about your value and argue about your price. I would much rather say to you, you decide what you're worth, position it with the right population, obviously, and then put together what your hourly rates may be or your daily rates may be. Have whatever discount opportunities in it you would like to offer people, so that you're not losing things that would make some sense for you to have, but live with it. And that's what it's all about. Then this becomes a non-issue. You can just say to people up front, listen, before we even talk, you need to know this is how we get paid. um, let's see. Dinah is sharing what many of our certified professionals also share, based on recommendations from the biggest name coaches out there, including Alan Weiss. I never charge for time. I always charge for the value of the package that I offer. Exactly right. And it's not just Alan. This is something that has been stressed for people, particularly people who bill hourly or would customarily bill hourly. This has been going on for generations. I can find the same recommendations that today's big coaches are making. I can find those exact same recommendations back in the 1940s. So this kind of stuff has been talked about forever. Why people don't get it continues to be the puzzle. But if you can position your fee based on the value you're bringing someone, then do that. If you need it to be based on an hourly rate, and there are still plenty of situations where that is the case, then you need to make sure that you can do that in a way that still avoids the negotiation that might occur from there. Okay, only 1 minute left, and so got a few just quick things I just want to share with you. And maybe what I'll do is take a little bit of time from next week's call, although that one's jam packed, and talk about these things in a bit more detail. But there are some barriers to earning more that I think that would be worth us looking at. I've got here 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, there's 10 of those. So how about if we begin next week's call with me covering these 10 barriers to earning more? And then we'll get into roadblock number 10, the lack of professional credentials, answering the big question, what are my real qualifications?